Well, it's semi-state week in high school football, and one of the big games on Friday night is number one Brownsburg, the defending 6A champs, playing host to Warren Central, who knocked off Center Grove last week, 24-21. And on to talk about that game with us, Oscar Frye, the junior quarterback for Brownsburg. And Oscar was a big part of last year's 6A championship team, the starting quarterback last year, along with Yosua Stevens. And then this year you got the job to yourself, basically, Oscar. But just talk about a little bit. I want to ask you first off just about this season. We talked Friday night after the game against Decatur, just about kind of how things have changed. You just get more comfortable, with more experience, obviously. And I just up front, kind of what's been maybe the biggest difference personally for you from sophomore to junior season.
I mean, I really think for me, just having that extra year under my belt has been huge. Obviously, all that experience I was able to gather last year. There's really no substitute for that. So, being able to take that and really get after things this year has been super cool. So obviously, what I was able to learn and grow from and, just prepare to whatever I can do to put the team in the best spot to win and be able to do that has been something that's been awesome.
What did you learn from that season, or what did you take away maybe from that senior class that graduated last year that maybe has influenced you this year as you become even more of a leader for this team?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just seeing how some of those guys last year led and how they worked, it definitely really rubbed off on me. Obviously, I don't think we're able to do what we did without those guys. They really set the foundation for all this, and I'm just super grateful and super thankful for all that they did for me. And you're almost in a role now where it's like you kind of want to be that kind of person that they were to me, to some of the younger kids. So obviously, just Yosua especially, what he was able to do. He obviously pushed me to become the best version of myself each and every day, on the field and off. And we're really great friends, but at the same time, the way I was able to watch him work, it's definitely kind of rubbed off on me and applied for me as well.
And you look at that, Oscar, sometimes that two quarterback system doesn't always work. I mean, it's hard to juggle two at that position, especially. You guys were able to make that happen. I find it kind of unique. Westfield's doing sort of the similar thing this year with their two quarterbacks, but how maybe did that work for you guys? I mean, is it about just kind of setting aside your own, personal goals a little bit and doing what's best for the team?
I mean, definitely. I think, like you said, being able to set your personal goals aside. But football is really the ultimate team sport. So I think what helped us be so successful last year is I think we were both willing to, no matter what happened, be able to put the team in the best spot to win. So if that, whatever that meant, whatever that may look like, we were able to get that done. And there were some games where he stepped up in a big way and was able to really help everything out. And there was other times where it's the other way around. So just the combination and timing of everything, it's really crazy to look back on it and see how everything played out. Some of those games, especially in the playoffs last year, it's just like, man, I don't know how we got there, but grateful, we were able to pull out like we did, just it was awesome, really cool.
Yeah, it was a very unique tournament run. The amount of close games you had, you haven't quite had that this year. It can breathe a little bit easier so far this season. But to ask you too, Oscar, you have a lot of guys coming back from that team around you. A lot of skill position guys. You have a really good offensive line, obviously. But wanted to ask you about the receivers that you have, especially Brandon Sharp and Avon Robinson have been guys who have, they were on that team last year. Obviously, had a big year for you as well. How do you kind of get that connection with them down? How much work do you guys kind of do together in the off season, getting those routes down and stuff like that?
I mean, like you said, it's awesome having them too, but we've got some really good depth too, which is obviously helped us in times where, we faced some really good DBs and had to really spread the ball around, which is, I think, one of the reasons that our offense has been so dangerous this year. But kind of going back to what you're talking about, we're going in the off season, 4 or 5 days a week, even times where we technically don't have stuff going on, just being able to throw and, get that stuff down in the gym when it's cold, stuff like that, even in the spring, in the summer when we're on moratorium, still being able to get out there and work. I really think the off season is where everything is built. That's where it was last year. That's where it was this year. We established those routines and we definitely attack them each and every day. And we enjoy them. Obviously, it gets, if you're not enjoying, it gets grueling and it gets tough. So, we have fun while we do it, but at the same time, we take it serious and we definitely get it done.
Well, again, Oscar Frye joining me, the junior quarterback at Brownsburg. this year. Brownsburg undefeated so far this season, going into Warren Central game on Friday night, and kind of a unique circumstance here, Oscar. You play against JT Whitaker, who coached you the last few years. I'm sure you're not talking to him much probably this week, I would assume.
No, I mean, yeah, he's obviously a really great guy, great coach. Obviously, having him these past couple of years was awesome. But I'm just with what we have right now. I wouldn't rather anyone else be around me, and players, coaches. So I feel like we're in a really good spot, and I'm really focused on what we've got, and what we've got is something special. So that's awesome.
I wanted to ask you too about coming up. I mean, I know you play golf.
Yep.
What other sports did you what kind of got you, I guess, to this point? When did you kind of see maybe like, quarterback, something I can do, want to do, feel like I can do it at the high school level, even let alone college. But, what was kind of your progression to get, kind of to where you are now?
Definitely. So I actually played ice hockey back in the day too, which, obviously that's definitely a unique experience. And I was able to gather some really, really cool experiences from that. But, just playing quarterback, I've played since I've been in kindergarten. So, it's been something, from the start from when I can really remember. But I just remember my dad got me into it, just the lessons that, football can teach you, being gritty, being tough, mentally and physically, working hard, establishing those routines. It was never really something that we'd ever look at be like this. It was, just something that you really just want to go out there and have fun. And I think, my dad really instilling that in me, just go out there and have fun is something that's really lasted and stuck with me to now. And I think it's something that's super important to me, and it is still. So, it's definitely a little bit of a different route, I'd say, than for some other kids. But obviously, just kind of falling in love with the sport. Some of the friendships and kids I play with, it's super special. There's no real substitute for that, I feel like. So it's definitely been an awesome road, and I wouldn't trade anything for it.
Is he able to get to many of your games on Friday nights, or is he kind of catching up while he's doing his job?
Yeah, obviously, he's got some stuff he's got to take care of. But he does when he can, for sure. And obviously at the end of the day, I know between him and the rest of my family, they're definitely my biggest supporters. So no matter what's going on with him, I'm just super grateful for all he's done for me really in my life. Set me up to be in the position I am. As a football player, but it's just as a young man too. So I wouldn't trade anything for our relationship. I love him to death, and it's super cool to have a relationship like that with him.
You're going into so the ice hockey thing. How did that kind of come about, or when did you get into that, and when did you stop playing ice hockey, and where do you play ice hockey around here?
So I played in Carmel. I played for the Indy Racers. There's a little junior team. There's some. I probably played kindergarten to fourth grade. And we some of those memories I've got are super cool. Traveling up to Canada, or going to St. Louis every other weekend. Is super cool. It's definitely different than anything else I've done playing football or playing golf. I think our team was even ranked like 40th in the country at one point, which obviously being like a 7-year-old, that's like that blew my mind. So I was really even got in a couple fights back in the day. I got in 2. So definitely always had a little bit of fire in me. It's definitely showing there, but it's definitely everything's a little different on the field than it was on the ring. But no, it's definitely different, but awesome.
Well, that's great. That probably helps you, prepare for football, or get. I think it's cool when at a young age where you're able to do different things, and then you kind of get focused maybe on one once you get to high school.
Yeah.
But it gives you different experiences. You get to be around different kids, meet different friends and that sort of thing, which is, I think, is good for kids growing up. But to ask you, Oscar, I know you're kind of going through recruiting. It's probably not at the top burner right now. Obviously, you got a semi-state game to play Friday, and for your sake, hopefully next week again at the Lucas Oil Stadium in the championship game. But you are going through a recruiting process right now. What's kind of the, how would you assess that as it stands now? What schools you kind of looking at the most, and I guess where you hoping to get to still?
Like kind of like you said, touched on that. I've got some offers from some really great schools, some schools I'd love to go to for sure. But I really think at the end of the day, everything's just God's timing. No matter what the plan may look like, I'm just stay faithful and really stay in the moment, enjoy everything as it comes. But also, being during the season, I feel like you get so locked in, just preparing for each and every Friday. It's just like, it's kind of almost something you push to the side a little bit, especially, just with everything we're going through. Obviously, we've got, what we hope 2 more big games to come. So, being able to prepare, being able to watch film, stay after practice, get treatment, just stuff like that's always top of the list during the season. So, we'll be able to reevaluate once everything's done. But, right now we're just locked in and ready to go for Friday.
I talked to Coach Hart about that on Friday a little bit about, I'm a little bit surprised you don't have, when you look at your list of offers, you have good offers, obviously, but I'm a little surprised you don't have more. I mean, is it, do you get frustrated at all? Because I know quarterback's a tough, a lot of schools, you can only take maybe 1 per class. It's just, the position's just hard generally.
Yeah.
And now when you throw the portal in there, teams are obviously looking for people who have experience at the college level a lot of times, but all that considered, is it still frustrating? Maybe because I see guys who have offers maybe, and I'm like, he hasn't produced maybe like you have, but how do you feel about that?
No, I appreciate that. But I mean, I think comparison's a killer of, true happiness. So I try not to get too caught up in all that. I really just try to run my own race. And, like I talked about earlier, just being able to stay focused and enjoy everything as it comes. So, being able to prepare and, obviously, you only get high school once. So what can I do to enjoy this and what can I do to maximize this is really where my head's at and what I'm focusing on. So, everything, all the circumstances, definitely makes it tough, but being able to control what I can is definitely something that I'm focusing on. And I think it's been really good for me.
Well, that's a mature way to look at it. Who do you are there quarterbacks, Oscar, that you watch that you try to maybe emulate or take things away from? And how do you maybe, when you're watching a game, are you kind of trying to internalize that or just take tips from watching different people? And who are those people, I guess?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say as of quarterbacks right now, probably Brock Purdy, Joe Burrow, or 2 kind of the top of the list. But, kind of going back in the day, I'm a big Joe Montana guy. So, just the way he played, especially, towards the end of big games, he was able to lead some pretty awesome drives, pretty cool drives like that one against the Bengals in the Super Bowl. So, obviously being able to do that and kind of watch him, what he did, but also Purdy and Burrow, those are 3 guys right there, that got the ball to their weapons and, I think could really process the game well, which I think helped make them so special.
Well, I was 11 years old watching that Bengals 49ers game, so I know that was before you were born. But
yeah,
but do you go back and watch? I mean, you seem like kind of an old school, old soul, I would say. Or did you go back and watch a lot of older stuff too?
Oh, I mean, yeah, definitely with my dad. I think when you grow up on those games and watching the Rocky movies, it's a pretty good youth right there, in my opinion. So I wouldn't trade anything for that, and that's definitely something I enjoyed.
What do you see, Oscar, as kind of get wrapped up here? You have this tough Warren Central team on Friday. I'm sure you've had a chance to look at them on tape and throughout the week. You're kind of game planning, not to give away your game plan or anything, but what do you see out of that defense? What maybe what are they doing well right now? What do you guys have to do to come out and play well on offense on Friday night?
I mean, for sure, they definitely got some studs, but with the guys that we have and the way we've been playing right now, I'm super confident in what we've got. Obviously, our coaches, they've been, they've been definitely on their A game whole season. I don't feel much different this week. I feel like the game plan that we got going into this week is super strong. We've had a really good week of practice, and I just feel like we're all excited to get out there, and we're fired up and get ready to go. Obviously to play in Brownsburg one last time this season is something that we're super lucky to do. With the fans, with the community that we have, it's something that's super special. So we're looking forward to it, and we're ready to get after it for sure.
Yeah, Coach Hart said there's no capacity, or it's all the fans can get in on Friday, I think. So that sounds good. But I was going to ask you too, like, is there a difference from this year to last year, just as far as like playing teams that maybe you feel like you have a target on you more after you are the state champion, or does that feel any different this year?
No, I mean, I think a little bit. It's obviously good. We want to bring out the best in every team each and every week we play them. But at the same time, we're on the hunt right now. I don't think we're ever hunted. We're always attacking each and every week as an opportunity, and we're going to go out there and maximize that opportunity. So that's what our focus was last year. That's what it was this year. Like I talked about, we're going to prepare to our best, and we're going to go out there and give it our all.
Awesome. Again, Oscar Frye joining me here, the junior quarterback at Brownsburg, and Brownsburg will play at home on Friday night, the 6A game against Warren Central. Westfield is on the other side of that bracket. They'll play Fort Wayne Carroll. The winners of those two games play next week at Lucas Oil for the 6A championship. Again, Oscar, thanks a lot for joining me here. It was great talking to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. It's awesome being on.
All right. Take care, Oscar.
Yes, sir. You as well.
All right. Well, thanks to Oscar Frye for joining me on our first guest appearance here. Now joined by Kyle Sokeland from the Evansville Courier and Press. And it's a monster weekend for you guys, Kyle, with you're coming up to cover. You get the 2-for-1 trip, I guess, two games in 2 nights. But I think two of the best games we're going to see, and I'll be at one of them, the Saturday night game at Cascade. But first, wanted to ask you about the Friday night game. Heritage Hills is coming up to play Roncalli in Class 4A. I think this is the best matchup of the night. Who knows? It sometimes doesn't turn out that way, but I think Roncalli is really good. Obviously, Heritage Hills, people know them from last year. I think there's some recognition, from all parts of the state once you win a state title and you return what they did. But tell us a little bit about, I know we talked last week or has it been 2 weeks ago about Heritage Hills, but this team had to, kind of get through a tougher maybe than expected Martinsville team last week to get to this round. But tell us a little bit about Heritage Hills, kind of what you've seen out of them this year. And of course, they're the quarterback, everybody knows, Jet Goldsberry, and maybe a little bit about, what Heritage Hills brings to the table.
Yeah, like you said, last year they made the run all the way to Indianapolis and won the state championship. This is their 3rd straight semi-state appearance with this senior class. And, of course, it all starts with Jet Goldsberry at quarterback. He's committed to Ole Miss, I think, primarily as a defender. But he's got, I think, 55 or 56 touchdowns on offense so far this year. He's got an Oklahoma receiver and Tyler Ruxer. He's got a couple other receivers, and Peyton Gray, and then Micah Toller had 130 yards last week against Martinsville. So he's got Heritage Hills probably has more offensive options than they have in the recent past, and that includes Dalton Pledger and Tice Winchell in the backfield with Jet. So it just feels like they're deeper on offense. They've got a big, experienced offensive line. The only hiccups they've had at various points is defense, where it's specifically just giving up a lot of yards through the air. And I think that's kind of where Martinsville got them. They did a lot of chunk plays, a lot of yards, just kept them out of the end zone, especially their running back. And I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, but no touchdowns from him, and that was the key emphasis coming in. So, yeah, I think it's a very experienced team that has won a lot of football games. I know, for example, they haven't lost at home since their freshman year. It just feels like they're as healthy as they're possibly going to be, considering I think they got an alignment back a couple weeks ago. Jet still has what we'll call a knee issue that he's playing through, and he still had 180 yards last week.
Wow. Yeah, Lucas Dewey's the running back for Martinsville. That he'd been tough all year, but yeah, Martinsville kind of an offensive team. They had struggled defensively with Jet. Kyle, how do they use him? I guess is he just? You mentioned he's playing with a little bit of. I think probably everybody's got a little bit of something at this point in the year, but do they use him as much as they can on both sides of the ball at this point?
He did not play on defense last week. I don't think he's played on defense since the Wrights game in the sectional. That's just to limit wear and tear on him, because I know they've been worried about that for 3 or 4 years, just how much he can do and wants to do, but they have to tell him to slow down. But primarily he's been at quarterback. They run a spread, what we'll call a spread option offense, whatever you want to label it. He's in the shotgun a lot, but very, very strong runner, as many saw last year in the state championship game. He thrown for almost 2,000 yards, I think. It's pretty close, and it helps to have 3 receivers that can all catch the ball and go over 100. But yes, I'm not sure if we'll see him on defense, just because if he's hurt in any capacity, they're going to try to limit him.
Yeah, that's the smart play probably. Roncalli will definitely bring some, some different, they're very good this year. I mean, Collin Ash definitely has thrown the ball better than he did last year. They're I would say a more, dual threat as far as run and pass goes than they traditionally have been. Although they have had some good quarterbacks over the years, but Collin Ash, 1,700 passing yards and almost 1,000 rushing yards. So he's really been good all year. And Alex Jarvis has really kind of stepped up as a top receiver for them as well. What do you see, with Heritage Hills? Is the defense kind of the question mark? Is that where you might, kind of wonder how they'll fare against this Roncalli team?
I mean, possibly. Heritage Hills, I'm sure, like probably Roncalli too. Heritage Hills has a lot of two-way players just based on need and roster size. So I don't know if that'll ever catch up to them. Maybe it doesn't, because they've proven time again they can still win against really good teams. But defensively, you just feel like, can they just slow down the opponent enough to get Jet the ball and score 40 points like they usually do? So the only time it has caught up to them was that Gibson Southern game back in week 6, where Gibson had a lot of yards and kept scoring every time in the fourth quarter to not pull away, but just one more possession. So maybe that's the only hiccup, is just trying to keep opponents out of the end zone, bend, don't break.
What are your thoughts on Goldsberry as a Mr. Football? I mean, I remember leaving Lucas Oil Stadium last year thinking that's probably the guy that goes in as the front runner for the title, just based on what he's done, his numbers. He's at that point we didn't know what kind of recruit he was necessarily or what offers he would have. Ended up getting really good offers. Going to Ole Miss. Everything kind of lays out there for him. Especially if they win this week and then play again at Lucas Oil. But also there's a kid named Miles McLaughlin who's, may break the all-time rushing record, and has kind of made sort of maybe changed our thinking, or my thinking, on what might actually happen. So what are your thoughts on that? And I know we don't know, how the coaches are going to vote, or anything like that, but what's your sense from that perspective?
Yeah. First off, like you said, it's the coach's vote. Like, we have no say in this.
Right.
And I can only speak. I know Miles, insane numbers, and when you're getting Derrick Henry's blessing, it's probably a positive sign. But I can only speak about Jet. I know he might be one of, if not the best, individual athlete I've covered down here. Like, he's up there because he's also an all-state wrestler. He probably could play some he does play spring sport and track. But he's a very, very competitive kid. Obviously, just does what the team needs to do, wants to do more than what he should do. He's put up a bunch of big numbers, and if they win, that'd be 3 straight trips to the state championship, 3A and 4A. So my only question, of course, coming into the year was where did they vote him at? Was it quarterback? Was it defense, a secondary, wherever they wanted to slot him? Because then you just run into different athletes around the state. But I would imagine he's a finalist, just based on the numbers and the wins, and of course now we're going to Ole Miss. But as far as winning it, we'll see. It's, of course, it's a coach's vote, and who knows how they'll just break it down, maybe north and south, even though you don't want to think about that.
Yeah, a lot of times it's in the old days too. It was just a panel of 60, and the north and south, and the classes would really be split a lot of times between. You may have a 3A kid, or in this case, a 4A kid. All the 4A coaches may vote for him, but then, it doesn't work in his favor because he doesn't get it from the other classes. So, but now with all the coaches having a chance who are part of the IFCA, it's, I think, made it a better process and probably more even things out a little bit. But I don't know. Some people have said, like, how do you not give it to a guy who's got national records? And I'm like, well, have you seen Jet Goldsberry? Have you seen? I mean, there's other candidates too, but Jay Goldsberry is, he's got all the accolades and all the, things too that line up with. So sometimes you just don't, you don't control who your competition is. So I think that's probably probably where it stands at this point. But I wanted to talk to you about the other game too. This one is also a fascinating game, Cascade, which has no, I wouldn't say no tradition, but compared to Gibson Southern even, or a lot of other teams around here, not a lot. So this game, Cascade people are super excited. They're bringing in extra bleachers for this game. I covered their game against Tri-West on Halloween, and nobody was trick-or-treating in the Cascade school district. I can tell you that because they were all at that game. But I know Gibson Southern fans. I covered that game against Tri-West a few years ago, and they were, the whole county was there to watch that game. They brought up the, they were tailgating and brought the campers and the everything up there. So this is going to be an awesome atmosphere. The only game in the state, But kind of the unfortunate part of this is the injury to Zach Foster. How does Gibson Southern come back from that, or how can they kind of combat that, Kyle, from in this huge game on Saturday night?
Yeah, I was at practice yesterday, which would be, I think, Wednesday. The backup, who's now QB1, is Caden Rushlow. He's a junior. By all accounts, prototypical, like he's got the tools. He's 6'3". I've seen him warm up a few times, and he was even told as far back as I think week 4 that he can spin it. Of course, the only thing he doesn't have is experience, because he was behind Foster, who started not just 2 years at quarterback, but the 2 years at safety as a freshman and sophomore. So, yeah, the question is, what does the offense look like? Nick Hart, coach, said that the offense doesn't change much because Caden can also run a little bit. I think he had a 50-yard run against Indian Creek for a touchdown in the fourth quarter. So, but we'll see. It's first time for big environment. It's going to be a huge crowd because Gibson Southern's been talking this game up too. And I know they shut down the Fort Branch for trick-or-treating on the section semifinal for Memorial as well. So I imagine it's going to wrap around that entire field. Again, but yeah, it should probably just wait and see what they do. Are they going to try to lean on Colin Shearer at running back, or just try to make it simple as they can for Caden, or let him do what he can? I know that they've got all the confidence in the world in him.
Kyle, were you at that Indian Creek game? I forget now.
No, I was at Heritage Hills Martinsville, but
Okay.
I've seen the video of how Zach got hurt. It's a very tough situation because very competitive kid, senior captain, fun to watch too because he can run and throw. So it's just unfortunate, I guess, poor luck because he just got rolled over and probably got caught underneath the kid or hitting the turf. Just bad timing.
Yeah, super unfortunate situation there. With sound like it was pretty emotional out on the field in Indian Creek. From everything I saw, people really appreciated how they handled the situation and it kind of brought the teams together, and kind of at least a good thing came out of that between the two teams. But yeah, Gibson Southern, I think people everywhere and kind of know what they're capable of doing, but not to be at full strength. That obviously affects things. Cascade, a very unique kind of team. They get up to the line so fast. It's kind of a hurry up running offense, I would say, although they can throw it. Brady Trebley's a good passer as well, but 3 running backs that all can all carry the load if necessary. So they kind of keep everybody fresh. It's very different type of offense. It's kind of a run and shoot with mostly a ground game. So that'll be fun to watch. But I know Kyle, Gibson Southern has played such a great schedule. They probably feel like they've seen about everything at this point, haven't they?
Yeah, Nick described it as a up-tempo wing tee, which maybe that's fair or not. I know Southridge and a couple others have kind of played similar, but not maybe as fast. But yes, they know it's a challenge because the Cascade scores a lot of points. I mean, we've all seen the numbers, especially that 98-point game. However they did that in running clock. But yes, Gibson Southern typically tries to play as tough a schedule as they can. They had Danville. They got maybe Henderson County from Kentucky. They lost to Rochester in Illinois, who's a 7-time state champion, and beat them pretty good in the fourth quarter. So yes, they believe they are as tested as they possibly can be. And the defense has played a lot better recently because they shut out Memorial and Mater Dei in the second half of those games. And then I think Indian Creek was 42-14. So they controlled that game pretty close start to finish. It's just a matter of assignment football, reading your keys and making your play.
Yeah, and oddly enough, both these teams are ranked second in our final, which makes it kind of I should have broken that tie, or we should have somehow. Because when you write they're both ranked second, it's weird, but that's how it turned out. There's also 2 teams in Dwenger and South Bend St. Joe are tied for 7th. So somehow we ended up with teams who were tied in our final poll, even though we had, I think, 20 voters. They ended up in a tie for that week. But the oddity of of how that came out. But interesting, game. I'm really fascinated by how this one turns out. Cascade. Like I said, they just haven't that experience. I know doesn't always matter that much because it's just a really good team. But you do wonder the moment's going to be pretty big, and Gibson Southern's a team that plays in a lot of big games. That could be possibly an advantage, but Cascade playing at home, you would think that'd work in their favor. What are your thoughts? Do you have how you think this game might go on Saturday night?
Yeah, it depends. I think if you pick either team, you're probably correct, just based on talents and scheme and whatever you want to pick. And home game is definitely a big deal, even though we all believe Gibson Southern will show up for that as well. I just think it comes down to how can Caden Rushlow look in his first start. And can the Gibson defense just maybe not? I assume Cascade will still score just how much. But Gibson Southern's got a lot of experience on both lines. They've got talented defensive linemen and Brody Clem, good linebackers in Shear and Gunnar Alexander. And I know that Lloyd Sellers has 10 interceptions at cornerback. So they've got kids at each level and on both sides. So I think I picked Gibson Southern, but it's very close. You could flip a coin and I would be, yep, you're right.
Yeah, I think that sounds right to me too. And kind of oddly enough, they do have one common opponent. You mentioned Danville played Gibson Southern. Cascade did also, and it was really the first 2 weeks of the season. Those two games happened, and Cascade beat Danville 41-25. That's ancient history now. That's late August, and both those games are long in the rearview mirror. So probably not a whole lot you can take other than they both beat a really good Danville team. So that kind of tells you how good these teams are. Danville, a 4A team that plays a lot of bigger schools also in addition to those two. So good wins for both those teams there. Looking forward to this, Kyle. We'll see. I won't be there Friday. I'll be at a different game, but I'm sure I'll see you on Saturday. And it should be a great night of football. Hoping we'll have decent weather on Saturday. Friday does not look promising, but hopefully Saturday's a little bit nicer. Thanks, Kyle.
Yep, thank you.
Well, my next guest on the Thursday night tailgate is Collin Ash, otherwise known as the Hurricane, from Roncalli, and the starting senior quarterback. Did that nickname catch on at all, Collin, or is that just me who calls you that?
Our principal actually reposted that that night after rebuff, and so it has stuck around a little bit. It's a nice little thing we like to throw out there if rain's ever in the forecast like it is tomorrow. So I've been hearing it a little bit this week.
I was going to say that might bode well for your game tomorrow.
Yes.
Not that it's going to be a hurricane, and that goes back to last year for people who don't know. Roncalli and Brebeuf played in that hurricane weather that no one else played in, and Collin had a nice pass in the second half of that game into the wind that wind. So, but bigger things at hand for you tomorrow night, Collin, with the Heritage Hills coming up to play in the 4A semi-state. Preparation for this week, what's it been like? What do you expect out of Heritage Hills? What kind of team you think you'll see on Friday night at your place?
Yeah, we know they're a good team and they play with a lot of heart. They're going to play hard. In terms of a defense, it's nothing we haven't seen. So it's kind of just running our same offense. And really, it's been a mindset week. It's just we got to go out and play hard and keep playing like we have been and just, stay disciplined, stay with our approach, and then hopefully everything will follow suit.
And Collin's having a great season, over 1,700 passing yards, 15 touchdown passes, and of course the running game, always a Roncalli tradition there. 932 rushing yards, 21 touchdowns for that offense. You guys have been maybe a little bit more versatile just as far as the run pass balance this year, maybe than you were last year. How much more comfortable, I guess, are you just from a quarterback standpoint of being able to throw the ball a little bit more?
Yeah, this year's been a lot of fun, just kind of learning myself and getting better at throwing the ball and, reading a defense. And I think that that versatility has been able to take us farther with our whole offense. No defense can fully sell out on a run or a pass. So just with getting the wide receivers involved, we've got a great group there too. So, everyone's involved in blocking, throwing, catching. It's been a lot of fun this year for sure.
You got that huge win over Chittard in the sectional, able to reverse that, and I know that's always a game that everybody there on the south side looks forward to. Certainly Chittard looks forward to as well every year. But what's that like to beat your rival and get a little bit of payback for them?
Yeah, that was a great feeling. I mean, one of the best feelings, honestly, that I felt. Being 0-4 against them before that, with over my 3 years, to win my senior year in the sectional championship. I mean, it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to this team, and it definitely meant a lot, like you said, to the south side. So it was great to be able to do that.
Well, you go into this game, Heritage Hills has a player on their side, Jet Goldsberry, who I know he plays offense and defense. He's their quarterback, but also plays defense for him. And I don't think he's the last. I talked to Kyle Sokeland. Sounds like he's been playing mostly just offense here lately, but I'm sure they'll throw everything they can at you in this game. What kind of a crowd do you expect? I mean, obviously you're going to have a great crowd there. What kind of environment? What type of butterflies do you have going into a game like this?
Oh man, I'm so excited. It's kind of a mixture. I know I'm going to be nervous tomorrow night, but I'm so excited. I know there's going to be the whole Roncalli community out there. We haven't hosted a semi-state game in over 20 years now, I think. So, I mean, just we have a great community, very supportive. So I know they're going to pack the stands, and it's going to be a very fun environment to play in, but the butterflies are definitely going to be there.
And Colin, you're a baseball, obviously a baseball commit. You're going to play college in baseball. Kind of take us through what, growing up, was it kind of both sports, or how did you kind of divide your time between, what sports you played coming up?
Yeah, I've been playing baseball and football since like kindergarten and first grade. So, I mean, it's been my whole life, but I guess it was starting high school, end of middle school, I kind of realized that like baseball was definitely my thing, that I could really go somewhere with it. So that's when I kind of started putting in a lot of time to baseball, and football was more of a seasonal thing, like these 4 or 5 months of the year football, but the rest is definitely baseball. But I consider football my getaway time, just to go and do something different and have fun, but it's not baseball, but it's still a lot of fun.
Did you ever consider not playing football, or was that something you knew you wanted to continue to play?
No, I never considered it, especially coming to Roncalli. It's a school of like multi-sport athletes, and like Roncalli football is like the thing here. Obviously, just so much history and tradition. So, it never really crossed my mind. I dreamed of playing for this team and being in the position I am now.
And I know, Roncalli, obviously a lot of tradition in football, and getting to this point, and having that opportunity not many teams get. Obviously, only 12 teams are playing this weekend, but a chance to play at Lucas Oil Stadium. What kind of a dream is that for you?
That's everything to me. I mean, like I said, Roncalli, just a school of champions. I mean, we have 10 state champions right now. I think that leaving a legacy, going to Lucas Oil and winning is just like it means the most to me. I know it means the most to this team too. So we're very excited to play tomorrow, and get that win, and then head to Lucas Oil. That's what we're planning for.
Is the volleyball team putting some pressure on you guys, or do you have to live up to what they're doing?
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel the pressure. My girlfriend is a libero on the Roncalli volleyball team, so sit there and watch all their success. It makes you a little jealous for sure. So, really, just want to be at that pinnacle and like feel those emotions that they do.
What has Coach Otley been like these last couple of years? He's a Roncalli guy, coming back to coach there, and obviously he knows the success of the team and the program. I'm sure has a high standard for you guys. But what's his impact been here these last couple of years?
I mean, yes, he bleeds Roncalli football, and that's amazing. I mean, he's a great leader. He inspires me and this team, just with like his passion for the game. He's never given up on us. Obviously, like sophomore year, a losing season and stuff, but he's always had faith in us, and he's never changed up on anyone. And it's always just the same thing, and just us getting better. And I think it's paying off, and it's showing like the type of coach he is to kind of turn things around and see it through.
Were you around like the last time Roncalli won a state title? Did you go to that game? Or I'm trying to think. That was what, 5 years ago, probably now.
Yeah, 2020. I was in seventh grade. I went to the game, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the obviously the COVID times are kind of, stuff runs together a little bit, but yeah, that was
Yeah.
a great team, obviously, and I'm sure that probably puts the thought in your mind of you doing that someday.
Yeah. We've talked about like the quarterbacks that, I mean, you all remember who win state. and just me personally and like as a team, I'd love to just leave a legacy, and like these guys, we'd all love to. And it just means a lot. It's like I said, it's what you dream of. It's all I think about these days when it's coming down to that time. So, yeah.
I want to ask you about that game last year. I know we joked about the Hurricane nickname, but what was that like just playing? Have you played in anything like that, or is that kind of stand on its own as a unique night you'll always remember?
No, I've played in few rain games in my life, but like that was insane. I mean, the rain was sideways, the wind, it was crazy. Like, I mean, you could barely see like 30 yards at the beginning of that game for sure. And this year, I feel like we've been blessed with the weather. I mean, it's been very nice, honestly, for most Fridays. So, no, that was a once in a lifetime experience, really.
Yeah, I walked the sideline the first half, and my jeans were just totally. I couldn't even feel my legs. So I stood under a tent the second half. I do have to say I kind of backed out a little bit and backed off on being out in the elements in the second half like you guys were. But actually, the second half wasn't quite as bad either.
It wasn't.
But a memorable night nonetheless. And I think tomorrow night will be memorable also. This Heritage Hills team, they're very tested and obviously won a 3A state title last year. I think this could be the best game of the night. Really should be a really fun atmosphere at Roncalli. But thanks for jumping on here, Colin, and best of luck to you guys Friday night.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. A lot
You
of fun.
bet. We'll talk to you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. See ya.
Well, thanks to all of our guests, Collin Ash joining there lastly, but also Kyle Sokeland joining there in the middle as well. And we're going to have a great night of football. I think it's going to be, hopefully the weather. I think it's as of the last look at it, didn't look fantastic, but we kind of get what we get. We've had great weather all season. So we're not going to start complaining now. And Oscar Frye at the beginning for also joining us as well. So three really fun guests there to help you get ready for Friday night of high school football. And then Saturday, too. Don't forget the Cascade Gibson Southern game. That game at Cascade on Saturday night as well. Again, that should be a huge crowd also on Saturday. So we'll have all of the matchups set by late Saturday night. We'll know 5 of them by Friday night, and you can stay tuned. IndyStar.com will have plenty of coverage and post-game reaction stories, videos, all that good stuff. But running through again real quick, and I had the bottom line here, the ticker, and I had pulled it off, unfortunately, there for that last interview. But there it is. You can see the matchups down below. In 6A, Westfield is at Fort Wayne Carroll. Warren Central is at Brownsburg. In 5A, Concord and Merrillville will be the north side of that bracket. Bloomington South and New Pal. That should be an interesting game. In 4A, you'll have South Bend, St. Joe, and Fort Wayne Dwenger. Again, that's a north side of that 4A bracket. And then Heritage Hills and Roncalli, like we just talked about with Kyle and Colin there. That game will be at Roncalli. 3A, Knox and Fort Wayne Lures. We'll have a story on Miles McLaughlin running on Friday, and also have coverage of that game as well. Gibson Southern and Cascade, the south side bracket. That game is Saturday, as noted there. 2A, Adams Central and Andrean in the north, and Brownstown Central and LaPel. That game should be a lot of fun, too. 2 13-0 teams going at it. And then Pioneer and South Adams in 1A North, and South Putnam and Milan in 1A South. So those are the games, and that is your semi-state bracket going into the weekend. So, again, we'll have plenty more coverage. Thanks for joining me here, and we'll talk to you next time.